Hello, beautiful people. How are you? So today I want to talk about intuition. Intuition, building a relationship with our higher self, authenticity. These are not new topics, but I'm really feeling into how increasingly important our relationship is to these parts of us. In these times where I've said this before that as more things become artificial, the more authentic we have to be. And as more things get really confusing, the more that we have to learn to trust our intuition. Intuition never lies, but our doubt doesn't trust it. So it's complicated, it's complex, right? To have a relationship with our intuition, with our higher self, to really, really trust something that we've been taught to really not trust, to think, oh, your imagination is just make believe, and that's just your voice, that's your mind. These are all interferences from the mind and from the part of you that doesn't trust, that has doubt, that has been conditioned to live in a very logical, rational way, which can be a useful tool, but it's not truly our inner compass. So in times where it might feel like it's hard to know where the North Star is, your intuition is going to be your greatest compass. So I want to dive into what that's like, what that feels like, the obstacles and challenges along the way, and go deeper into why we really need to turn these aspects of ourselves back on. They're there, they've just been dormant. So let's dive in. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. So I want to begin right off the bat with one of the biggest obstacles, one of the things that keeps us from really hearing, feeling, connecting to, and trusting and believing our intuition. And when I use the word intuition, people feel intuition in different ways because our clairs are different. Some are they see it, some hear it, some feel it, some know it. Whatever your particular mode of receiving information, you could say, from the field is going to be unique to you. And so there's a lot of people that go, well, I can't see it. So if I can't see it, if I'm not clairvoyant, then I don't have intuition. And that's not true. It comes in many different shapes, forms, and expressions. And it's understanding what is your particular unique one and really getting to know that. So part of intuition is cultivating your relationship to and with it. And when I say intuition, intuition is just the voice of our higher self, our soul self. The reason why it is sometimes difficult to fully hear it is because it's not 100% within us. Now, that's going to sound really strange because the answer is always within. But what I mean by that specifically is that our entire soul is not inhabiting our body, right? We think that we're the body and we have a soul within us, but actually we are the soul and the body is within it. The soul can't fit into this tiny little structure. Like the whole thing can't fit. And if you want to go into kind of multidimensionality, it's in other places at the same time, right? Everywhere all at once. Everything everywhere all at once, right? So we first need to connect in order to connect up, and part of it sometimes is like literally calling it in, and sometimes I think it's hard to hear it for two reasons. One is because it's not fully inhabiting our body, and so intuition is very subtle. It's very steady, but it's very subtle, right? It's not something, I mean, every now and again it will kind of like shout at you or something, or it doesn't even shout at you. Let me correct that. It's just can get very clear and the feeling can get very, very strong, but it's most of the time it's really subtle. So but I want to dive right into what is it that keeps us from really trusting it, and it's fear. Now, I'm not wanting to paint fear as the villain here. It's not the bad guy. But unfortunately, we've been living in a very conditioned way to live by fear. I don't even like using the pillars of fear, but that's basically what our culture is built upon, is the pillars of fear. And so most of the time we're in a kind of fight or flight. We're in a survival mode. And when we're in that space, it's really hard to quieten the reptilian mind and the monkey mind to really come in, because it's not in the mind, it's through the heart, to come in. And then the way that I feel it is you have to connect down in order to go up. You have to connect down into your body, into the root of your being, down into the earth, because she's cosmic and she's a portal as well. But to really root, and the more that you root, the more grounded you become, even amidst the chaos, the easier it is to then go up and to access what we want to draw in. One thing I want to point out, and this is really, really important right now. Anything or anyone that is inducing or inciting fear in you is not coming from a place of love or care. So I'm going to say that again. Anything or anyone that induces or incites fear in you is not coming from a place of love and care. Your intuition will never scare you. It will never frighten you. It loves you. It cares about you. It's looking after you. It will never scare you. Now, can things in life sometimes be scary to do? Like, can things require a lot of bravery and courage? And you go, oh my God, I'm so scared to do this. Yes. But your intuition will never threaten your survival. It will protect you. It will make sure that you are surviving, and in a really good way. And I want to make this clarification because a lot of people get confused of what's my intuition and what's just my fear. Your intuition is a voice that is, like I said, it's subtle, it's steady, it's calm. That's a big point. It's calm. It can get excited about things. Your soul and your spirit can get excited. It wants you to get excited about things, but it shouldn't ever induce anxiety or fear. It's not going to scare you. Like, think about it like a parent. Unless you have a parent that's really unhealthy in themselves, they wouldn't actively want to scare their child. They wouldn't actively want to put them in a constant state of fear and survival. They would want like a healthy parent, and I'm really pointing that out, healthy, healthy, healthy. I know that there are situations where people will say, well, my parent, my mother, my father wasn't healthy. They induced fear and anxiety and stress and abuse all the time. Yeah, that's not healthy. I'm speaking in the context of a healthy human being would never actively choose to keep their child in a state of fear, right? The only time that has been used, unfortunately, through a poor indoctrination is to control. Like, I'm going to scare you or I'm going to punish you if you aren't a good little girl or a good little boy, right? But that's not coming from a place of love or care. That's coming from a place of fear and control, right? And again, there's no judgment because we've been in this inverted kind of construct or paradigm that has been set on the pillars of fear, right? And that's what we're alchemizing right now and creating more of a foundation of love, support, and care. Because all you have to ever think about in these things, when you're in relationship with yourself or your higher self, your soul, your intuition, source even, is how would you want to be treated? You'd want to be treated with love, right? With love and care and compassion and gentleness and kindness and playfulness and joy, right? Safety doesn't come from fear and control. Safety comes when we feel loved and held and supported and understood and empathized with. That's true safety, right? So when we're cultivating this relationship with our higher self and our intuition, which is the voice of our higher self, think about cultivating the relationship of, it's almost like I want to be a bit mindful in using this analogy because there isn't this like lower self and higher self. What I was going to say is think of it as if it's the most loving parent that you always wanted. But the reason why I say I am reluctant to use that analogy is because we can sometimes look as like the parent has the authority, right? But it's not hierarchical. The spirit isn't hierarchical. So, it respects and loves us as much as we really should respect and love our higher self. And it's a relationship, like any relationship. And if I go on the theme of analogy with our parent, which to be honest, even as a parent, I will look at my daughter as an equal. I absolutely respect her consciousness and her being and her soul as an equal. I am not above her. Like, yes, as a parent, there's some things where, just on this earthly plane, there are things that I have maybe more wisdom and experience because I'm older. But what I'm talking about is that heart to heart, soul to soul, consciousness to consciousness respect that this is a conscious being, right? Like from when she was a baby. So we need to get out of this hierarchical formula template, that we often look at on this planet, in this realm, and begin to see that we are a part of a circle. That's really what it is. We're part of a circle. We're all sitting in the circle, and we're all having this experience in our own unique way. And many could say that even in the spirit realm, it's not that our guides are better. They're also learning things in that form, right? Sometimes we choose to incarnate and learn through this experience. And sometimes we're doing it in a more etheric way or in a different dimension. So there's just getting out of that, because I think in order to be in relationship to and with something, there has to be a feeling of reciprocal and mutual respect. So we don't want to hand our power over to something outside of us. Even as guides, angels, and our higher self, we are in collaboration with. So how do we deal with the first biggest obstacle, which is fear? So the way that fear often shows up when we're in communication with our intuition or with our higher self, with our soul, is it has doubt. So you might hear the voice of your intuition, and then immediately the mind will come in and go, oh, I'm not so sure about that. I don't know. That doesn't make sense. That's not really logical. Oh, this and this and that. There's all the interference, the interjections, it's coming from a place of fear. I don't trust this. Nope. It's all doubt, right? But doubt, what I've found is that when I'm really connected to my intuition, there is no doubt because there is no fear. Right? It doesn't mean that when I physically take action on something that it isn't going to be scary. Like when I, decided to pack up my whole house and travel with my daughter, and like going to Mexico, and then, coming back, and then taking a ferry and going to, going across the sea and going to another country and starting life all over again. And those acts take a tremendous amount of courage. But it doesn't mean that they're wrong, right? It doesn't mean that it's bad. Like there's a difference between mental fear, which is often a total illusion. And this is kind of the what we're conditioned into, is like, who is it? Well, there was the saying, 99% of my fears never came into fruition, right? They were never real. They were never true. And I think it was the writer Anne Lamott that said something, my mind is like a bad neighborhood. I don't go in there alone. So there is this importance to be able to discern what our mind is creating from a place of fear, rather than when we're hearing the voice of our intuition and then knowing that we want to take action. There's something that excites us. There's something that motivates us. There's something that we're curious about, right? The spirit is very curious and playful and like wants to have these experiences in life. It's why we came here. It's interesting, right? There's texture to it. There's emotion. There's layers. There's depth to it, right? But for the physical body and for the mind, that does get scared. It takes courage, but often if we do things that are in alignment with our intuition, there's an energy. It's like, okay, I'm scared. I'm so scared. But there's an energy that goes, yes, I'm going to do it. Now, sometimes, I want to bring up a point that I've heard people speak about this in a way that I think is really, 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 really useful when you're learning to connect to your intuition. I think it was Nancy Rebecca that was talking about this. Your intuitive voice has your voice. So that's why a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, it's just me. I'm just me in my head." That's not really like my higher self. That's not my soul self. And she gave actually a really good explanation to this. I wouldn't have necessarily thought this myself. She said when she had first tuned into her higher self and her intuitive voice, and she was like, "Well, this just sounds like me. I'm just talking in my head." Her higher self said, "Well, picture it this way. If I were to come in some booming voice, like the Wizard of Oz, right? Like you'd be terrified. You wouldn't listen. You'd be scared." So your higher self, two things actually. Your higher self will come in with your voice because it's the most familiar, and therefore hopefully the least scary, right? Because it's familiar. But also we have to understand that like it is us and we are it. So of course it's going to have our voice. We are an expression of the soul. The human body is the vehicle and the vessel for it, but we are the expression of the soul. So there is no separation. You know this. I know I point to this a lot, but NDEs will sometimes not even recognize that they're out of their body because they're carrying the same consciousness. So they're having the same thoughts, and they feel like the same person because our soul is part of our personality. And I think the more that we can come into our body and into embodiment and feel who we are, not think who we are, right? But feel who we are, we get to know the essence of who we are more and more. And when you get to know your essence, that's when you're really in alignment and in that kind of channel of connecting both to your human self and to your soul self. And you recognize that there doesn't have to be a split or a fragmentation or a separation. It's one and the same. Now, is the body limited insofar as what we maybe our soul self would remember that we can do? Absolutely. It's super frustrating, right? But to know that we are the ultimate channel for it, and we don't need channelers to be able to access information that we can access. Like they can guide us into teaching us how to do it, right? And sometimes it's so lovely to be guided. Like I had a soul reading several weeks ago, and to be guided and to have a soul reading done for me where it's normally the other way around, sometimes it just feels really lovely to be held in that space. And all of it was an affirmation and a confirmation of what I already know. But sometimes just hearing that reflected back to us is so, it's like balm to the soul of like, yes, thank you. I feel seen and heard and understood. And sometimes it sparks a memory. Sometimes we need to connect to that part of us and we need to have somebody else guide us to that point, because if we're not in that conversation, we might forget, why did I come here? What's my purpose or mission, or what am I wanting to learn here? Or what am I simply wanting to experience here? It's easy to forget. And again, it's easy to forget because we're pulled out of our center and we're being fed fear, right? So fear is the biggest obstacle, but what you can do is as you now some of you might say, I don't even know how to connect to my intuition or my higher self. Like I have no idea. So what I was going to say is the first thing you do is you set the intention. You set the intention that I want to communicate and be in conversation and collaboration with my higher self. It's not something that you have to go out there seeking for because it's already here. It's just kind of pulling the veil back enough to see, I've been here all along, right? I've been here all along. So setting intention is so remarkably powerful. We have no idea that just the power of intention opens up a multiverse of possibilities. So first set the intention. Then if fear arises or if doubt arises, name it for what it is. Okay, this fear is my conditional fear. It's either conditioned by society or my peers or my teachers or my parents or my religion or whatever it is. Name it for what it is. Where did I learn to have this fear? And where did I learn to have this doubt? We've been taught for a long time, like, don't trust yourself. Listen to the authority, follow the rules, stay within the lines, right? Be good, behave. Don't daydream. No, 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 that's bad, right? Daydream and imagination is an aspect of your spirit, and that's how it creates. So on the other side, we create through imagination. What manifestation is what visualization is. It's imagination. And I'll never forget this. I don't remember where I read this, that it said something along the lines of imagination for children is so important because it builds the confidence to be able to create. If you cannot imagine, you cannot create. And if you cannot create, then your sense of self gets really teeny tiny. You know, we don't have the same kind of confidence because think about it. When you can create something and you make something and you make it happen, you put it into action, you take the inspiration, you take the thought, you take the visual and you put it into manifest form, which is the amazing thing that we as humans get to do. That feels so empowering because you're like, wow, I made that. Whether it's like I've made a cake, you know, or I've made a film, or I made a book, or I made you know, a child. When we create something, it's really fulfilling, you know, no matter how small or how grand it is, it doesn't matter. It's just the act of creation is so beautiful. I mean, that's like, look at the multiverse. It's constantly creating because it's inspired to want to create and create more experiences. And through those experiences, there's more creation. And this is like the fractal, you know, as everything kind of is infinite and unfolding. But let me rein it in. Okay, I want to speak to authenticity. So, as I said in the beginning, as things become more artificial, authenticity becomes extraordinarily important. We want to know what is real and what is true, not what is fake and artificial. And, you know, we also want to know that within other people and in other situations. And in order to be able to really read that, quote unquote, in another person or in a situation or in an environment, we have to know what that feels like for ourselves. So if we're not being authentic within ourselves, we're not going to have that kind of clarity to have as like a barometer to discern what is authentic outside of myself. Now, we will naturally have that kind of inner compass. It's naturally there. But like I said in the beginning, there's a lot of things that are naturally there, but have gone dormant because they've been suppressed or oppressed or a whole multitude of reasons of why we can't connect to it. But what we're doing right now through our intention is reawakening it and reflexing that muscle. So I used to teach this when I did workshops a long, long time ago, is you can start to use your intuition in really small ways. Like we want to use it in really big ways. Like, you know, where do I go in my life? What's my purpose? What's the next job? Where's my partner? Where's my, you know, whatever and it's super useful for things like that, but actually start to flex the muscle in small ways. Like you don't go to the gym after never going to the gym, or maybe it's been 10 years since you've been to the gym and you start like, you know, lifting 150 pounds. Like you just don't start at that. You start small, right? Start with like, you know, 2 kilos or whatever. So little ways that you can start to use your intuition is just the little things that you do in your day that are kind of mundane. Don't go to the supermarket and just get what you normally get on your list. Go to the supermarket going, okay, what does my body need? What does my body need? What does my body want to eat today or tomorrow? You tune in. So really what intuition is it's a tuning into and a listening. That's all it is. It's a listening to the voice of our higher self and our soul, which is guiding us. You know, we're only partially in control. And the only thing that we're in control of, which I'll say again, I know I've said it before, is how we choose to respond or react to something. So listening as often and as frequently as you can in your day with the little things. So I'll give you an example. I was driving somewhere and I had Google Maps on because it was giving me better directions to where I needed to go to, but it's really crappy at alerting you with speed cameras. So at some point, I just had this thought, like I knew I was going to do it, but I just all of a sudden was like, okay, now I'm going to also put on my Apple Maps because it tells you like in advance, like speed camera ahead, right? So I switched that on and within 30 seconds, it alerted me to a speed camera. So that's your intuition in really small ways. It was just, it's like, it feels like it's an impulse. It feels like it's this kind of oh, I've had this idea. That is your higher self speaking to you and saying, like, okay, this, and sometimes it's teeny tiny and sometimes it's much larger. So, another story that I'll share, which I know I've shared in an episode at some point, but it's worth repeating. This was probably one of the biggest examples of really listening to my intuition. And you have to understand this. This is what's so hard sometimes as a human being, is it often in the moment doesn't necessarily make sense. It doesn't make rational, logical sense. So I was in my early 20s, traveling around Southeast Asia with my boyfriend at the time. And we were in Thailand and we were set to get onto a plane to go to Laos. And we had purchased our ticket. We were in the lounge or the cafe. And I was sitting, I remember exactly the visceral feeling of it. We were sitting at a table. I think we had like had a snack or something. And I was fine. I had felt totally fine. And all of a sudden, it was like, when you kind of have that like blank white sheet, it's almost like the blood gets sapped out of your body for a second. And all of a sudden, I just looked at my boyfriend and I said, I can't get on this plane. And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I just cannot get on this plane. And something in him trusted me so much because I was so intuitive in this moment. I think I've shared this story before recently. It feels like it's all coming back to me, but I'm just going to repeat it again. He trusted me so much in that moment because I was so connected to my intuition that he's like, okay, it didn't make any sense whatsoever. When you're in alignment with your intuition, everything flows and falls into place perfectly. So we got up, we went downstairs, we went to like where the desk was, where you would check in. We told the guy, we can't get on the plane. He literally handed us the cash. We handed him the tickets, and that was that. It was that simple. We get out of the airport and we're both like, whoa, what just happened? And this whole journey, we were traveling for 6 months. It was all a kind of Celestine prophecy experience of just really being guided by our intuition. Where were we going to go? What were we going to do next? It was really like a flow of, it was a spiritual teaching, that trip. It was really a growth on a spiritual level. And it was really profoundly trusting our intuition. Fast forward a week, and we decided to reverse our trip and we went to Hong Kong first. And within 24 hours, I got insanely sick and had to be rushed to the emergency room. And I had had some kind of intestinal parasite. And they said, had I gone to Laos, they would have been putting me on a plane to Thailand or wherever, the closest place to get me medical care. So my intuition knew a week in advance, you can't go to Laos. That's not a good place for you because you have this intestinal parasite and it's going to flare up in about a week's time. And you need to be in a place where you can have good medical care. And thankfully, Hong Kong was a very good place for that. It was also a very good place for that because I have an allergy to anti-nausea. And for some reason, a lot of Asians do as well. So they have the one that I'm not like, don't have convulsions to. So that was a really good example of it made no logical sense in the moment. But 1 week later, it was like, okay, get it. Thank you. There was another experience on that same trip where we were kind of splurging on these really lovely kind of cabins. We'd stayed there for 3 nights, and both of us one day just said, you know what, I think we need to move today. Like we need to save a bit of money, and just today feels like the day to move. And we moved across outside of the town and up onto the ridge, up onto the mountain that kind of overlooked the town. And we moved there. And the next morning when I came out and looked down, the entire village had been flooded because a dam broke, and there was, what was a tiny little creek was a lake basically over the entire village. So I'm just giving these examples. I've had so many numerous ones, but those just are etched in my memory because they were really like big ones, right? They were really big ones, and sometimes they're really super small. But we don't have to follow it, but sometimes we can get in really messy situations. I was listening to Nancy Rebecca, who shared a really great story about how she was living in this cabin that she absolutely loved. She's like, I want to live here forever. And her higher self said, you need to move now. And she's like, no way, I'm not moving out. I really am happy here. And her intuition, her higher self was like, you need to move out now. She's like, nope, I'm not going to do it. I'm happy. That makes no sense. Where am I going to move to? And I think it was within a week, there was a mudslide and she had to evacuate and find a place within 24 hours. And I was like, So these are more extreme examples of how our intuition works. And again, I want to reiterate, it doesn't freak out. It doesn't say, you need to move out, you need to get out, don't get on this plane. It's not scaring us. It doesn't want to frighten our nervous system. It's very clear, it's very calm, and it will just say, you can't get on this plane. It's actually not even a say. It's sometimes I don't even hear it. I'm one that feels more. Sometimes I can have visuals, but it's more something like a knowing. Like I just have the knowing of something comes up and it's like, okay, I know what I need to do or what I need to not do, right? So again, tune into the way that your higher self communicates with you, and the way that you hear, see, sense, or feel, or know things. So when we're in tune and when we're in alignment with this part of ourselves, we're really also tapping into who we are authentically. Because who we are authentically is the I am of our essence, of our soul, right? Of course, it's also the authenticity that we are as a person. I began the whole journey of authenticity when I asked myself, who am I without the identity of being a dancer? Because I used to be a professional ballet dancer, and that was like my identity was painted around that. Asking yourself who you truly are is asking yourself not only who is the I am of Corinne when I'm not coming from my limiting beliefs or my wounds or my fears, but it's when I say that, it's not that I want to extricate that and fragment and separate and they say I am not that, because the truth is that all of my life experiences have made me who I am, Corinne Bloom, today in this moment, and I'm grateful for them, even if they were hard, because they made me who I am today. But it's not being attached to the story of what happened and attached to a past moment, right? It's like, I am who I am today in this present moment. And through that, then, when we kind of allow the experiences that we had to just be that, they were experiences there, don't get into the good, bad, right, wrong. They were all experiences that cultivated not only the human that we are today, but has evolved the soul that we are infinitely. And so then when we come into that place of acceptance and we come into that place of authenticity within our physical human personality, we tune into the essence of who we are as a soul. And then that is forever authentic. Like the expression of the soul is authenticity. That's just what it is, because it's an isness, and it will never lie to you, and it will never hide anything from you. It is pure authenticity. And authenticity encompasses everything that we also really respect and appreciate, which is love and compassion and kindness and integrity and being genuine and being caring. That is an expression of our authenticity and our authentic soul. So really all of this is to come into alignment and to come into flow with that. And then when we're in that alignment and flow, we can go back to this notion that we are not a body that has a soul, but we are a soul that has a body. And so then we can begin to expand beyond the borders of our skin and really expand into the beautiful, illuminated, shining, bright self that we are, the infinite self that we are. So I just want to take a moment to tune in before I bring this to a close so it's not too long. Your intuition and your higher self wants for you to trust it. It will never force you to trust it. You have free will. But just think about how someone that you deeply care about, whether it's a parent or a friend or a child or a pet, what creates connection and what creates safety and what creates intimacy on all levels. And what I mean by intimacy is really like heart, open heart, vulnerable connection, authentic connection, is I trust you. Do you trust me? Trust is such a profound foundation for connection. And when we trust, then we can give and receive so much. When we trust, we can give so much love and we can receive so much love. You'll know this when the opposite happens, right? That you're in a relationship and someone, whether it's a romantic, divine partnership, whether you're intimately with someone, or it's a friend, or it's a parent, or it's whatever it is, you know that when trust is broken because that person lied or betrayed to you, you retract your love and you will not receive their love. You will push their love away, right? So trust is that fundamental ingredient for having that reciprocal, mutual, I trust you, you trust me, I give you love, I receive your love. There's this constant kind of infinity loop. And that is almost the nature of the multiverse, is that everything is infinite and infinitely connected, right? There is no separation. So just know that your higher self and your intuition wants for you to trust it because it wants to take care of you. You're going to have to learn how to be with your doubt and to not give it too much credence, to not give it too much weight, to not give it too much power, but to name it and call it out for what it is. This is my mind that is scared. So sometimes, I'm never a believer of get rid of that. Don't berate any part of you. It's either conditioned, it's learnt, or it's just still in a bit of survival mode. So you include it, you embrace it. Okay, this is my mind that's scared right now, that doesn't trust. This is my body that's scared right now and doesn't trust. Okay, what does my mind and my body need to just, it's okay, you're safe, everything's calm, you're loved. And then once that's kind of calmed down, then you can connect in. And then you should find that your intuition will always make you feel really wonderful because it's there to love and care for you. And remember that there isn't anything that actually loves and cares about you genuinely that is going to induce or inflict fear upon you. So that's a really good measure and barometer of discernment. Is this inducing fear in me, or is this inducing calm within me? Even if it's like, yeah, you need to not get on that plane. You need to move out of your house. You need to whatever. Like, even if it's in a situation that can be quite extreme, it will tell you calmly. It will not have you freak out. It's the end of the world. You're going to die. It just won't. It will never do that. So just remember that and have that as a little reminder here that when you're tuning in, if you feel fear, that is your mind, your human body self, the conditioning. So be with that first. Be with that feeling. Give it love. Embrace it. Let it know that it's okay. It's okay to be scared. It's a little child. It's like a little child. It's okay. I have you. I'm holding you. I love you. You're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. And one of the beautiful things about having a connection and relationship with our higher self is that we recognize we're never alone. We might not physically see it or feel it, but we're never alone. So now more than ever, it is so important to connect to our intuition because it's so loud out there. It's so loud. It's so confusing. There are so many lies. There are so many opinions. My goodness, right? Listen to yourself. Listen to your higher mind, higher self, right? Not the reptilian mind. Take care of your survival needs first, right? So that you can go, okay, I'm safe right now. I'm in this room and I'm safe. I'm not under threat. Let yourself into that. And then you can see that any fear that comes up out of that is a figment of your imagination. It's an illusion. Get to know the essence, the quality, the feeling of your spirit, of your soul. So I'm going to start to do little meditations separately on my YouTube channel to just help people come into this state within themselves so that then you can connect, because you might be listening to this going, okay, Corinne, but how do we do it? So these podcasts are just a little bit how to bring the awareness in and to talk about it. But I would like to kind of offer little guided meditations so that you can actually begin to implement and take action on them. So if you're not following me on YouTube, then you can go ahead and go over there and subscribe. And I will be doing those more often. So the invitation is just to practice listening. Practice listening. Practice listening. Recognize, notice, bring into awareness your fear, your doubt. Those are the only obstacles. Those are literally the only obstacles from listening and following and trusting your intuition is doubt. And doubt isn't coming from your higher self. It's coming from your mind or from your body or from your conditioning. So first step is always bring awareness, shine the light on it, and start with like little weights, right? Start with little weights. Just begin really small. Follow your intuition in little moments. And if you didn't catch the intuition and after you're like, oh, damn it, I heard it. Great. Recognize it. Go, I heard it, but I didn't take action on it. I didn't trust it. That's okay. Don't berate yourself. Then the next time when you do listen to it, you do trust it, and it does like show you, oh, wow, I listened to my intuition. That was so helpful. Like, thank you. I turned on Apple Maps before 30 seconds before the camera came. Thank you, intuition. Yes, I was listening to my intuition. I trust my intuition. And just as any two people are getting to know each other and you're building trust, you're cultivating trust. It's not just like that, right? You're cultivating trust by, I need to get to know you and you need to get to know me. And then we build and create trust together. You can do that with your higher self. You know, of course, your higher self has your best intentions at hand. So it's not going to be someone that's going to betray you. We can betray ourselves, you know, by not listening, by going against our heart and our soul. But even that just requires compassion and the understanding of like, wow, I was scared. I didn't trust. Okay, let me come back into a place of cultivating trust with my higher self. But it's easier to do it with ourselves because we know it's not going to betray us. So give it a go. Have fun. Let it be playful. Write things down just so that you can remember. Spend more time where you go inwards so that you can listen. It's really hard to hear if we're really busy and we're constantly frenetic and, you know, we're doing all of this stuff in the outer world. Take more time to be silent, to be still, to do nurturing things, to go into nature and set the intention, because the power of intention is remarkable. It's where everything begins. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. As always, take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. Bye. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.